Hey everyone, it's Chad D. Welcome to part 2 on this Sunday of He's Not Wrong. If you listened to my episode before this, it was just straight everything that I'm not wrong about. So this episode could be everything that I am right about and not wrong about when it comes to politics and the headlines. We have a lot to discuss. If you're watching on YouTube, I keep peeking my head around to see the monitor to see if my camera is overheating. As of right now, it is not, but it is about 80 degrees in this apartment. So we need to get through this because I am dying. So with that being said, we need to talk about what is happening right now, because if you have not been paying attention, it's easy to miss just how coordinated and how extreme and how dangerous the MAGA movement has become. This isn't just about Trump being Trump. This is about a political movement and an infrastructure of power that is actively undermining democracy. It's dehumanizing people and it's silencing dissent and creating a version of America that runs completely counter to everything this country is supposed to stand for. So I want to break it down for all of you. And I'm not going to rap, but I want to break down the facts, because right now ICE is staging what can only be described as deportation theater. And it's all part of Trump's obsession with numbers. This man is deeply insecure about the fact that Biden and Obama deported more people than he did. And that's not spin. That's a fact. Obama deported over 3 million people. Biden in one term was at 1.4 million, and Trump has only managed completely in one term and some of this one, 935,000 people. And Trump hates that. He hates that someone he calls weak on immigration was beating him in the numbers game, at his own game. So what does he do? He changes the rules. He creates chaos. And right now, his team is actively revoking over 500,000 humanitarian visas that were legally granted under Biden to migrants from Cuba and Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. And these people, they were here legally. And I want to preface what I just talked about, the numbers beforehand. I'm not saying that I support the methods and the reasons why they were deporting people. I'm just saying the way Trump is looking at it, it's strictly numbers. He's taken the humanity out of it, and any justification that might actually, whatever. But I don't support any of that. I'm just saying through the lens of Trump, he's losing. The numbers show that he doesn't know what he's doing. But like I said, all these people, they're here legally. They didn't break laws and they didn't sneak across the border. They applied, they were approved, and they were building lives. But Trump, he doesn't care about that, because it's not about safety. It's not about it's not about safety, but it is about optics. By canceling these visas, Trump is forcing thousands of people into deportation proceedings. Not because they did something wrong, but because he needs the stats. He wants a headline. He wants the graph, the line on the graph. He wants that to go up. So he's manufacturing deportation cases so he can sweep them up and say, look at me, I'm tougher than Biden. And it's ugly. People are now being ambushed by ICE. Agents are ambushing people while they attend their own legal hearings they were only called to because Trump revoked their status in the first place. Agents are showing up at courthouses, at schools, workplaces, even public buildings. And we know that they're being offered bonuses for hitting arrest quotas. Let me say it again. ICE agents are being offered bonuses if they meet their arrest quotas. So yes, you heard that right. We are financially incentivizing the detention of people who did nothing wrong. The entire system right now is being twisted to produce political theater. And this isn't about securing borders. This is about using human lives as props for a future campaign commercial and political talking points. And now, listen, if you've read Project 2025, and I mean you've actually read it, then you know how bad it gets. But I want to discuss page 555 for a second. Page 555 of Project 2025 outlines a plan to militarize immigration enforcement, to authorize the use of troops, to override judges and expand ICE authority in ways that mimic a military occupation. Does that sound familiar? because it's already happening right now. We're seeing it play out. The coordinated raids, the legal ambushes, the show trials, the quotas, the whole infrastructure is already being built before Trump was even re-elected, or elected, I should say, to a second term back in November. The infrastructure that he is executing now, it was being made well before he won that election. And that's the playbook. It's not a hypothetical anymore. We have the playbook. And meanwhile, the press, the one institution that's supposed to hold the powerful accountable, is being gutted from the inside out. Just this month, you might have heard that ABC fired veteran journalist Terry Moran after he criticized Trump and Stephen Miller on social media, calling them world-class haters. I mean, he's not wrong, but that was enough to get him shown the door. And you can't tell me that's not political. You can't tell me that the timing and the tone doesn't matter here, because it's not just Terry. It's part of a much larger pattern. Journalists are being punished for telling the truth about Trump in the GOP's agenda. Terry's now launching his own platform, which I respect, but the real issue here is the impact that his firing is going to have, because when people with the biggest platforms are afraid to speak freely, that's not democracy. That's censorship. That's corporate cowardice. And now, and it's how authoritarianism creeps in, not with a bang, but in silence. I want to shift gears right now to talk about Vance Bolter. A lot of you might have been following the news since yesterday with domestic terrorist Vance Bolter and his assassination of former Minnesota Speaker of the House. But I want to talk about him because this man wasn't just some lone wolf or a mentally unstable shooter, because he is the exact kind of person that this current version of the Republican Party keeps enabling. Bolter is 57. He impersonated a police officer, full uniform, badge, body armor, taser, SUV, the whole nine. He even used a disguise to help him carry out his assassination and his other assassination attempt. So he murdered Rep. Melissa Hortman, former Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, and her husband, Mark, in their own home. He critically injured Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette. And in his vehicle, authorities found a hit list with over 70 names, including, but not limited to, Governor Tim Walz, Representative Ilhan Omar, Senator Tina Smith, and Attorneys General Keith Ellison, as well as abortion providers and other progressive leaders. So hear me when I say this wasn't random. This was ideological violence fueled by years of extremist rhetoric, demonization, I should say, and political scapegoating. The man believed that he was acting on a cause, and the cause was fueled by MAGA's propaganda, Trump's inflammatory language, and a party that refuses to deal with the monster who helped create it. So let's be real. This is not the first time that this has happened. This is the same party that, claims to be pro-life, and yet it incited and enabled a violent insurrection to attempt to overturn a democratic election. January 6th wasn't just like some history event that you read about in history books. Like, we watched it play out. We watched it happen live. Police officers were brutalized, people died, and the entire foundation of our government was threatened, all in the name of one man's ego. And what did Republicans do? Well, let me tell you, most of them looked away, or worse, they justified it. That is the same party that tells us to be afraid of immigrants and to be afraid of drag queens and diversity programs, while they're out here radicalizing and protecting domestic terrorists. This is the same party that has elevated conspiracy over truth. They are trying to make us fear policy. They're putting violence over governance. So no, this didn't just happen, randomly or in a vacuum. This was years of coded language and dog whistles and open calls to, and I quote, fight like hell. And it won't be the last time, because Trump has emboldened people like this before, and he will do it again. In the Republican Party, they need to reckon with that. They can't keep just pretending that it's just a few bad apples when the entire tree is rotting from the inside out. And here's what makes it even worse. Because Bolter impersonated law enforcement, the public now has to question whether someone in uniform is actually real. That's not just dangerous because it's heinous, it's horrible because it erodes the most basic level of trust in civil society. It breaks the social contract that we have with those who are supposed to be protecting us. So this isn't just political polarization, this is political violence. This is a direct attack on democracy and on public service and on anyone who dares to believe in a government that works for the people instead of against them. So please let that sink in for a moment. And while we're talking about governmental instability and authoritarian creep, we must not ignore what's happening in the Middle East because it matters. And Trump has his fingerprints all over the chaos over there as well. Because right now, tensions between Israel and Iran are higher than they have been in years. There's airstrikes, retaliation, civilians are dying, and suddenly Republicans are the ones who have spent years stoking the fire, and they're the ones saying things like, pray for Israel. Like, this whole conflict just fell out of the sky randomly as an attack on Israel. No. You don't get to light a match and then ask for thoughts and prayers when that match, becomes a really large fire. Like, they struck this match, the entire place is burning down, and now they're asking us for thoughts and prayers for those who struck the match. No, that's not how that works, because we can't forget that Trump is the one who withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal. That agreement, whatever you think about it, we can talk about how much more impactful it could have been, but at its core, that deal, that agreement, kept Iran from enriching uranium beyond a certain level. It gave inspectors access. It slowed down their nuclear ambitions, and Trump scraped it for the optics. No replacement, no alternative, just political posturing. And now Iran's nuclear program is back on track. The region is destabilized and people are dying. So no, you don't get a call for peace after you dismantled the guardrails that people before you put into place to keep this from happening. And here's when I know that I wasn't crazy with my thoughts on this. Even Candace Owens jumped ship on this one. When Candace Owens, like the Candace Owens, is like, hey, maybe blindly supporting every military action without nuance is a bad look for the party, and Republicans respond by excommunicating her, something is going wrong. That tells me the GOP isn't operating from ideology anymore. It's just loyalty tests and war drums and fear mongering. Trump doesn't care about peace. He doesn't care about the Jewish people or Muslim people or democracy abroad. He cares about control. He cares about chaos, because when the world is on fire, people like him get to step in and offer, in air quotes, order at the price of freedom. The hypocrisy is staggering, and the party of America First suddenly wants a world war. The people screaming freedom are cheering on bombings, and if you raise even a simple question, you're branded as disloyal. It's not leadership, it's cult-like behavior, and the collateral damage is real, both abroad and at home. And while all this is happening, Trump made over $600 million last year. Let me say that again, over $600 million while the world was being set on fire. From what you might ask? Well, let me tell you, golf resorts in Florida, Ireland, Scotland, licensing deals in Dubai, Oman, and Vietnam, NFTs, meme coins, crypto dinners, Bible-branded merch, Trump sneakers, Trump cologne. Even the Trump meme coin reportedly pulled in over $300 million in fees, while his administration was rolling back crypto regulation and announcing a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I'm going to assume that you see the pattern here, because he wasn't running for president to be elected president. He was running to be CEO of a brand. And the presidency, you might ask? The Oval Office, the White House that he was trying to win? That was just the marketing engine for his brand. It's not about governance. It's about creating a grift. It's blending state power with personal profit in ways that should violate every constitutional guardrail that we have. But he doesn't care, and neither do his followers. So here's the bottom line. everything that I've laid out, the raids, the censorship, the lies about immigration, the political violence, the profiteering, it's all connected. It's all intentional. It's about building a version of this country that's authoritarian, exclusionary, and ruled by fear. And let's be clear, this isn't about conservative versus liberal. This is about democracy versus dictatorship, about whether the power can be held accountable or is power absolute, about whether the truth can still be spoken or whether it gets punished. MAGA is not patriotic. MAGA does not represent patriotism. It's not principled. It's not consistent. As we've said before, it is at its very core a movement of double standards. It's a movement of hypocrisy where the only rule of law applies to their enemies, where dissent is punished and where profit always comes before principle and the people. So don't let them tell you that this is normal. Don't let them gaslight you into believing that calling out divisiveness or whatever is or calling them out is divisive, because what's divisive is turning the government into a weapon. What's un-American is building a system that punishes truth, silences press, and incentivizes fear. So we have a choice right now. We have a choice to push back, to speak louder, to tell the truth, and to fight like hell, as Trump likes to say, to keep this country from becoming something that we don't recognize. So as I said earlier in this episode, there was a Minnesota former Speaker of the House who was assassinated yesterday. And I don't want to end this episode with a voice memo from someone making light of anything that's going on, because what's happening right now is heavy, it's scary, it's dark. And I think that Melissa deserves to have her memory honored. And so I'm going to speak to that a little bit. I deep dove into her speeches, into her career, into the legislation that she was a part of. And we're going to speak to that for a little bit. But before I say that, my heart breaks for Minnesota. It truly breaks for the people of Minnesota. And my love of Minnesota goes all the way back to high school, because the program that I was involved in that introduced me to politics, to government, to people of different backgrounds and ideals and thoughts that were different from my own, that challenged my own belief system, that helped me create my own belief system. That program introduced me to Minnesota. Some of my best friends back in the day, and people I still keep in contact with, people that I love very deeply, they live in Minnesota. And I really looked forward to whenever that program would bring me there for a few years, so I could, be immersed in their community and hang out with my friends there and continue to learn and expand. And to think that the people who helped impact and shape me into the person that I am today are being impacted by political violence, and that their community is breaking and hurting breaks my heart, because Minnesota and the people there mean so much to me, and they don't deserve this. Melissa didn't deserve this, and it's very un-American what's happening. And so that being said, I want to talk a little bit about Melissa and her life, because it was very much rooted in service to her family, to her community, and to the ideals of justice and compassion and opportunity. She embodied what it meant to be a public servant and what it meant to dedicate your life to public service. So whether it was in the halls of the Minnesota State Capitol or around in her community, Melissa led with intention, she led with intelligence, and she led with a moral clarity that never wavered, even in the face of adversity. So as the Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives, she stood at the front of some of the most meaningful and transformative progress in the state's recent history. And she did so out of a belief that the government, when guided by values and courage, could truly be a force for good. She championed legislation that reshaped daily life for millions in Minnesota, helping expand access to healthcare and childcare, passing family leave, family paid medical leave, and raising the minimum wage. And she was a part of the big movement that ensured that every child, regardless of background and income and circumstance, received a school meal. She helped move Minnesota forward in clean energy and environmental protection, and she fiercely defended reproductive freedoms and the LGBTQ community and rights that we fight for, even when that meant standing up for our community in the face of some really hateful voices. But what set Melissa apart wasn't just the policies that she helped pass, but it was how she passed them, because she passed them with heart and with dignity and with a willingness to listen and an insistence on doing what was right, not because it was easy, but because it was the right thing to do. She, I've heard from people that she had the rare ability to navigate political conflict without losing her humanity or the community losing respect for her. She welcomed actually honest disagreement, and she earned the trust not through ego or partisanship, but through quiet competence and her unwavering values, as we discussed. Her leadership was not loud, but it was deeply respected by Democrats, by Republicans, and everyone in between who took the time to understand what kind of leader that she was. And in a political era of turmoil and chaos, Melissa, she was a steady leader. And when others chose sound bites and viral clips, she chose substance always. And when others stirred division, she stayed grounded. She often said that every policy that she fought for was with future generations in mind, and she meant that deeply. She raised her children in a home full of love and purpose, and it's that same conviction that she parented with that she brought to politics. So her legacy is just as much about how she showed up at home as how much she showed up in public. Melissa leaves behind a legacy that is a rare find in today's political climate, and it's a legacy that lives on in every child who now eats a free school lunch without stigma, in every worker who can take paid time to take care of a loved one, and every young person who sees someone like them represented in government and they know that they matter. Her passing is a profound loss, I know, to her family and to her colleagues and to the people of Minnesota. Just as much as we talked about her legacy that she left behind, the people of Minnesota and everyone in America will always be able to see her and the laws that she helped pass and the people that she mentored and in the progress that she advocated for and made a reality. In the way that she'd made others feel seen, valued, and respected, they will always be able to find Melissa. She showed us what true leadership looks like when it's rooted in empathy and clarity. So I know that the state of Minnesota will not forget her. They are, without a doubt, a stronger and more compassionate state and people because she was there. I'll see you next Sunday.